What's up, guys? I am Crypto Mike, and I'm not a financial advisor, and this is not financial advice. Those are the things you got to say when you do this. Look, we're talking about Gods Unchained again, and there's an update. They actually took a look at the sleep mechanics. As some of you know, that you get some of these deception decks, or some people that are sleep heavy, and they can kind of just dominate things and just sleep things round after round after round, sleep your most powerful cards, and wrestle the game away from you. So they noticed that it was a little bit unbalanced in some situations, and so they looked at it, and they did a look at Sleep 2.0 is what they called it, right? So here we go. This is the actual Sleep 2.0 findings. We'll look at that in just a moment. But this was the original blog post here that they put up, and they were going to look at it in a development type phase and try and figure out if this was something that needed changing. So as we look at this, I'll explain what Sleep 2.0 was supposed to change, and then what the conclusion is that they actually came to. So check this out. Now, it started like this. Sleep 2.0 was exactly this when it began. Let's see. The change comes with the following benefits. Sleep counterplay is no longer tied to specific hard-to-include tech cards. God powers such as Magic's Mage Bolt become a flexible choice against sleep control decks, and control decks in the future can have higher late-game power levels without freely being able to get there against any creature-based deck. And what that is they just meant that if you had a creature that was asleep, if you had a way to damage it, you could wake it up. Just damage it with like a Mage Bolt or something, or other cards that have maybe deal 1 damage to all creatures would wake up all your sleeping creatures and all of theirs, something like that, right? Just something where you could actually have a mechanic to wake them up, all right? And that's what they did here with Sleep 2.0. Now, what happened with this? Well, okay, here's what they changed and what they tested, and here's what was good with this change in the tests. The change directly impacts Siren of the Grave, one of the strongest cards in the current meta, giving players the chance to break the loop we constantly see in a majority of board wipe death games. On these board wipe death games, the change will tune down this really strong archetype, one that has been difficult to balance due to the Genesis lock. Even with these changes, a BWD deck with the right adjustments would still be playable and hold its own in competitive play. The change will also reduce the power level of Demogorgon, which is very powerful in the current meta, but would do so without removing it as a strong option in any deck of the control archetype. The change helps level the playing field for players using Welcome and Core set cards, ensuring free-to-play decks are viable in the meta, which is fine, right? But that's how you piss off a lot of people who spent $1,000 on Demogorgon decks, right? Okay, so that's what they looked at and how the first test of this Sleep 2.0 started and where it began. And let's look at how this progressed. What was bad with the change? Well, of course, with the good always comes some bad, and this is what they had to say about that. The balance update we delivered this month can be undone by a huge change like this one. The nerf would damage board wipe death as an archetype a little, but the proposed change shoots almost 30 cards out of the meta, mostly belonging to Deception. The change will impact some domains more than others. For example, Magic has a ton of ways to deal damage and wake things up using spells and god powers, but Magic was already favored against board wipe death. It's actually other domains that need help to face it, like Nature and Light, who have way less interactions with the new mechanic. The core card changes we implemented to test alongside Sleep 2.0 can be used in a variety of ways, like doing direct face damage to proc Frenzy for Nature or War, and overall we think the power level of those cards can be slightly above average. Aggro decks already make the best use of the Sanctum. With these changes, this would become even more severe. I don't know exactly. I don't have these Demogorgon cards or the Siren, which, by the way, that Siren card looks a little something like this, Siren of the Grave. This is what they were talking about there. And its Roar is obliterate a card in your hand, and Afterlife is all enemy creatures go to sleep. Pretty powerful if you ask me. Again, like I said, I do not have this card. The thing is, though, that apparently it's part of the meta. It's part of the board wipe death meta. So in any case, wouldn't you know it, unfortunately, they determined this. This was their conclusion. Given all the above, this change won't be pushed to the live server. This was a concept we wanted to explore, but we believe the downsides in practice outweigh the benefits brought with this patch. Thanks for all your feedback and participating in the PTR test. It's back to the drawing board for us. So a couple thoughts, of course, is that unfortunately this is going to remain, and you get some OP situations, but that's to be expected. Again, we're still in a beta state. I keep saying alpha, but it's a beta state now for this game, Gods Unchained. But the second part is that they understand and they know there are some problems with this sleep mechanic, okay, particularly that card and some other situations with Demogorgon. So they're looking at it, okay? So that's a good thing, and that clearly, number one, we should be thrilled that if we get a nice card like that, they can't nerf it after it's done. Like after they move on to the next season, that's that. It's a wrap. So of course they could, in the later iterations of whatever happens with the new seasons and new cards they introduce, they could have some counters to those things to make those less OP in the old days, like a Genesis type Demogorgon card. But on top of that, you start to see how difficult this is to actually start balancing a game like this. Like I said, hundreds and hundreds of cards. It's a challenge, and like I said, I'm glad it's not my job, because keeping track of that would keep me up nights just trying to get this with some sort of semblance of balance and fairity to all decks, right? But again, that's never going to be the case. It's impossible. I mean, they can come as close as they want, as close as they can trying, but you can't fix this stuff. So anyway, the good news is, like I said, the bad news is, number one, is that they are actually going to have to can this and start over, back to the drawing board. But the good news is, number two, they do know that this is becoming an issue, and some of these decks are ridiculously OP, and so they're looking at ways to maybe counter that in some way or manner. So that's okay. I mean, like I said, it's their problem, not mine, and I'm glad for that, and I'm glad there's good people on the case, because I've got faith in these developers now that I've been watching for some time, and they seem to be on the ball, like I've been saying. So anyway, like I said, I'm Crypto Mike, and thanks for watching, guys. If you want more of this type of stuff, don't forget to subscribe, leave a thumbs up, and leave a comment down below. We'll see you in the next video. Thank you very much.